Good afternoon, it's Randy Byrd, and thank you for visiting this session of Tuesday Titans Live, where I interview some of the greatest titans of the industry. We've had some amazing guests, Dr. John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Tanya Meme, Miss World Canada, host of Sell This House, and just countless others. I've had Navy SEALs all the way to, broker owners. And today I couldn't be happier to have Glenn Sanford himself as the guest on the show. Welcome, Glenn. How are you?
Excellent, Randy. Great to see you. It's been a few weeks.
It has been a few weeks since you beat me on the golf course. I'm not going to say that, but listen.
I think you did quite well on the golf course. I do not golf that much.
I had a good day that day, but for you not golfing for a while, it was really amazing to see your swing. So I think you should probably get out there more often if you could find some time. But listen, Glenn, you've taken over the CEO role. I want to jump right in. You've taken back over the CEO role of EXP. You're the founder of EXP. Take us through that journey back at the beginning and what that looked like. I'd love to get inside your brain of what you thought that would be, looking back in the crystal ball of 2009, right? And so take us through the journey of how'd you come up with EXP and let people understand what that journey looks like.
Yeah, so 2009, we had just come out of 2008. I had a team-based real estate brokerage that I'd started in 2007 when I left KW. We'd grown it to 4 offices. We still had actually a couple satellite teams running in a couple KW offices. But in 2008, 2007 had a great year. Did about 73 million in production, and 2008 we were on track to do about 100 million in production, and then the market turned. Lehman Brothers, declared bankruptcy. The mortgages came to a screeching halt. Nobody could get funding done. The government had to get involved to unlock this stuff to basically keep the economy from basically falling off a cliff. It did fall off a cliff in a lot of respects, but it would have been a lot worse had the Fed not got involved. But in October of 2009, it's funny, my assistant at the time, she up and quit at the beginning of October. And I'm like, what's going on? One, I didn't think I was a bad employer. And I'm like, why would you quit in a really bad economy? And she did. And that dawned on me that maybe I should check the bank account. And so later that day I checked, and sure enough, my credit cards were maxed and we had no money in the bank. And there was really no money coming in because, as you remember, everything froze up. Yeah. So I quickly had to close 3 of the 4 offices down. Went to skeleton crew on the 4th, raised some money from friends and family to get to 2009. And then in February 2009, a number of us got together and we started to think about how do we grow. Now, I taught some of the top ranked websites around the country. I was an SEO guy, search engine optimization guy. I was one of, probably still have the skill set, but I was then one of the top SEO guys in the entire industry. And so just to give you a little history, I had the #1 site organically on Google for Seattle real estate. This is a city where Redfin started. So I was ahead of Redfin, Realtor.com, Zillow, and there was obviously a number of other folks that were there. But I was #1 in Seattle. I was #1 in Nashville. I was #1 in Las Vegas. I was #2 in Phoenix for Phoenix real estate. I was certainly #1 in Bellingham, Washington, where I'm at. #1 in Portland, Oregon. But these are all markets where I was #1 organically for the city name followed by the term real estate, which is the most coveted term, the most searched term. It's city followed by the term real estate, and then city followed by the term homes for sale. Those, vastly are searched more than any other search term. So for me, I basically own those terms, generating 100,000 leads a year across all the markets. And then 2008 going into 2009, we actually decided that we were going to get out of the SEO game and the team game, because it's a pretty expensive part of the business, if just in terms of just trying to scale. So what do we do to build a scalable real estate model that would work? And then I also recognized a number of things that I had struggled with as an agent, and even running a team, is that all this was highly dependent on my involvement. Now, obviously, I'm still involved with EXP, but in a different way. How can we build a business model that attracts some of the best and brightest to our business, and by providing them benefits they wouldn't get anywhere else? And the big one for me was, how do you retire from real estate in a business that has no retirement plan? And so that was kind of the first thing that we wanted to solve for. And I'd been at Keller Williams. I think you might have been at KW for a while as well. But I love the concept of profit share, but in practice, wasn't very profitable. So
that's what attracted me, right? The idea that we could get off the real estate hamster wheel someday and get into a capacity where you're getting some residual income from that employment agreement or independent contractor relationship over the years. And I remember after a couple years at KW, I was there 3.5 years, 2.5 as the team leader, and then the OP, and took over. And I was at a top producers panel, and they're like, "What do you love most about real estate?" And I'm like, "Because I could do this till I'm like 70 or 75 years old. It's easy." Coming from the construction trades, mentally, I was thinking I could do this for the rest of my life. And I was like, I almost wanted to throw up in my mouth when I said that to myself. I was like, I do not want to die in my chair in real estate. And there was not a vehicle for that other than flips and investment rentals and doors and things. Real estate agents don't have any other alternatives, really. And that's what I initially loved about the Keller Williams model. It just didn't work. It didn't pay. There was something broken in that. The things that needed to happen to get paid were multiple aligned things. So how did you come up with rev share? How did you come up with that in the beginning days? Because it's brilliant.
Yeah. So, well, one, it goes back to the KW days in 2007. In January, I got my 1099 for 2006 from KW, and I found out, I had 184 people in my profit share group, and the reality was I only got about $6,000. And so you just do the math on 100.
I'm buying a boat with that and retiring.
I need like 100,000 agents to actually have a meaningful amount of income, and so that didn't seem like that was going to be practical. And so we said, hey, I can hire a broker for less expense. But when I went back to the office after getting my 1099, I was kind of steamed a bit. And I said, guys, if we ever build a real estate company, we're going to do revenue share, not profit share. And we actually put a small version of a revenue share plan in our team-based brokerage, but it wasn't designed to scale. It was just designed to just be a thank you for those in the office for helping in the various capacities. But in 2009, we got rid of our physical offices, and I'd been coached. And I think it was even in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, was the single biggest cost to run a real estate brokerage is the bricks and mortar. Right. The second biggest cost is your staffing costs. And both of those, you want to try to manage to be, 10% of your revenue. So if you can do 10% going to bricks and mortar, and you can have 10% going your staffing costs. If you're doing a 70-30 split with your agents, you've got a little bit of cushion there, but it's not very much. I mean, with capping and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And so for me, I'm like, hey, what if we got rid of the single biggest cost? Because high-speed internet was pretty much everywhere. People have been talking about. You've been in the business for a while, I think, Randy. When did you get in the business?
20 years ago. 20 years ago, I think in March.
Okay, so I've been in the business just about a year longer than you have.
Yeah.
But you remember everybody was talking about the fact that eventually you weren't going to need to go to the office. You'd be basically a mobile agent. You'd meet your clients in coffee shops and all those type of things. Transactions you wouldn't be done on paper, they'd be paperless, and they'd do digital signings and all this other stuff. And everybody was talking about that, but nobody had done it. And so, one of the things that I thought about in 2009 is why don't we do what everybody's talking about? Why don't we build
It's
that?
true.
One, we could save a whole bunch of money on the bricks and mortar and staffing costs, which I couldn't afford at the time. And two, we could sort of build the next generation of real estate brokers before anybody else built it. And then the second part was, if we build it, what does the financial model need to look like so it scales? And so then we said, okay, we could give agents 100%, which would be the logical move would have been, we'll just charge agents less and we'll just build this virtual brokerage.
Mhm.
The challenge is that if you do that, then there's no money for leadership. That's why none of the 100% brokerages have grown very big. I mean, they've
Right.
done okay. I'm not to say that they haven't grown, but they haven't got to Keller Williams size. They
No.
haven't got to Remax size. They're like, I'm not even sure. The largest is probably 15 or 20,000 agents. Sort of at 100%, and they've been around for 30 years. So they've been
Right.
around for a long time, but they haven't really scaled to significant size because they can't pay leadership. So then question was, how do you pay leadership? And then how do you not have to do it through a W-2?
Mhm.
And because the W-2 is pretty expensive in its own right, because salaries and all the other things. And we need to be able to do it through our 1099 independent contractor agents. It actually made sense to me because as a Keller agent, I recruited quite a number of agents to Keller because of the profit share and our team-based model. And so it seemed naturally aligned with what a top agent would do anyway. And so then the question was, what does it need to look like? And so that's how we came up with the 80-20 split, $16,000 cap, our revenue share program, which pays out 50% of that 20% goes out through our revenue share program. And then the last piece that I was trying to solve for, even back in 2008, was how do we turn our agents into equity shareholders? Because for me, I wanted to be an equity shareholder at the Prudential, now
Mhm.
Berkshire Hathaway office that I was a part of, and also at the Keller Williams office that I was a part of. And I wasn't offered meaningful equity at either one of them. And if I had got equity, there, quite literally, I would not have had any reason to go independent because I would have had a vested interest in seeing that office grow. And so
True.
for me, I wanted to basically share on the equity side at whatever level agents want to participate in. And then that ultimately led to us becoming a public company. And we I don't know how many millionaires we've created on the equity side, but it's a lot because we're also a publicly traded company.
It's amazing. We wouldn't be on this interview today, right? If somebody had offered you an opportunity back then.
And we probably wouldn't have met.
That's true. We wouldn't have met. I'm blessed. When Brent Gove first called me about this, I was coaching for one of the top coaching companies in the United States, and I was, not allowed to recruit. So I didn't see that side of it. But I remember telling Brent Gove, well, tell me when it works. You're at a couple thousand agents only. It's an over-the-counter OTC stock, not NASDAQ yet. So I said, those things are like, some of the things we need to prove. And Brent's like, I'm doing this. And I'm like, you do you, I'm good. I'm coaching over here. And greatest mistake I ever made, not jumping on my brother's coattails at that time. But it's amazing. I went to Vegas when we met for the first time. I don't expect you to remember this, but when we met for the first time, I was like, okay, that's a first-class guy. Brent's introducing me to people. The next day you announced that you were going uplisting to the NASDAQ. And that was really when my story is, I said, okay, I'm all in. That created legitimacy for me in that belief, right? Because I had that little bit of scar tissue from Keller Williams, number one recruiter, lots of people, no income to speak of. And so to me, it was a little bit of that scar tissue that probably led me to hesitate. Now it's my greatest regret in life is just not doing it sooner, right? And so now we're at what, 87,000 agents? Is that about accurate?
Yeah, 86, 87. Yeah, the NAR numbers dropped off for the first time in history, like last couple of months. And so we haven't been immune to the fact that there's a lot of low non-producing agents that, have hung up their license. So
Yeah.
we've kind of hung in around 86,000 agents or
Gotcha.
so for the last couple months. But I suspect that once we get back in the selling season, we'll actually start to see those numbers pick up. But a lot of companies are seeing their, rosters getting pretty hammered at the moment.
Yeah, there's not a lot of companies staying status quo. We're seeing significant NAR's talking 400,000 agents leaving the market in this downturn if it continues, like a lot of people are expecting. And, I mean, there's always the cyclical motions of the real estate industry. We've been through the 2003 bust, the 2003 upswing, the 2007, 8, 9 bust, and all that came with that. It's really impressive what's going on with EXP. I mean, obviously, I wear the EXP banner and hat, and I'm blessed to be at a company that I can now say I'll be for the rest of my life, and that's a blessing. The growth we've had over the last few years, just some of the numbers I was looking at, 40,000 plus agents in the last 24 months that have come to this model. When you look at this, it's hard to say, why aren't they all here, right? There's no other model like this. There's a couple of copycat models, but what sets us apart from, you're the Uber of the real estate business and my belief, and there's some lifts and there's other companies, but what is the difference maker between EXP? Is it software? Is it mindset? Is it positioning? What do you think it is that makes us so different and being the leader in that?
Well, certainly there's a first mover's advantage, which we definitely have. We're the only company in the space, especially when you start to look at sort of the copycats, that actually is built by agents who've actually been in the field, who actually understand what it means to do all this stuff. And then we're continuing to innovate. Like we just did a video a couple days ago. I might have went out yesterday. We're talking to Jason Sherman on the healthcare benefits that we have as EXP agents, which nobody else in the industry has. So the fact that we've got, and agents are saving, in some cases, I think are saving tens of thousands of dollars a year versus going through the insurance marketplace to get similar, if not better, overall benefits. And so, that's a big one. I mean, and so I've always been focused on what's the next thing that we need to add to the mix for agents. So, like next Tuesday, we've got another announcement that we're going to make about how we're enhancing the model, and then we've got some other things that we're working on in the back end to just continue to enhance and enhance and enhance in such a way that it would be irresponsible for an agent who's truly trying to build their business to hang their license anywhere else, because the benefits are so large. But there's one thing, there's that in sales we talk about features and benefits, right? And so a lot of times people are selling the features as opposed to the benefits. And so I don't want to talk, but one of the benefits of being at EXP is the community. It's being able to be around like-minded people who actually have a vested interest in seeing you succeed, which is totally different than the legacy big box brokerages. So in the big box brokerages, there is no alignment between your compensation and the agent that's going out into the field in your market generating business. You are competitors. You may be at the same company, but there is nothing in it for you when they succeed, other than you lost the listing or lost the opportunity to represent that buyer. At EXP, when somebody does get that listing, it still stings, still hurts. But if it's in-house, you also recognize that ultimately benefits you through either the equity side, because you're an owner, or if they're in your rev share organization, when they close a transaction, you're going to actually collect some income from that as well. So it lessens the sting and actually opens up your playbook for them and others in the organization to find out, what are you doing? So I was a big judo guy for 27 years. There was a guy named Wayne Miller, really amazing judo guy. And he used to say, I'll teach you how to win, but I won't teach you how to beat me. And by the way, that pissed me off. And because I'm like, if you're my coach, you should teach me everything. And I think about the idea that in EXP, our agents don't hold back. Like they're not just teaching you how to win. They're actually teaching you how to beat them in the marketplace. And that's such a unique thing that you would never, ever see it again, a legacy big box.
Ever. That was actually a gut shot statement, because that is the one thing that I cannot put my finger on. You can't really materialize in a presentation. That collaboration is the best and biggest thing I've ever seen. And to have people literally being willing to share all their secrets with you, it's all ships rise with the rising tide. We've heard that, but I've seen it firsthand. And I remember when I had my Keller Williams office, I was trying to get everybody to hug and kumbaya and work well in the sandbox and create culture. And they had their doors shut and the blinds drawn and their listings up on this wall, so you couldn't see when you walked by. And it was this competitive spirit. And you broke that down. And you broke it down because of the financial investment you have in the people that you surround yourself with in your organization. How in the world did you see this that many years ago? How did you, when you started with a couple hundred agents, or even when you got to a little bit of a 200, 300, 400 agents, how did you build a system in your mind to house 86,000 agents and now going to 250, 500,000 agents in the future? And you haven't changed the compensation model. To me, it's mind blowing that you were able to look at that and build a plan and somewhat build the airplane as you were flying it even. But still that model works true today. That I don't know another industry that would work with.
Yeah, so one, I got exposed at an early age to the concepts that underpin our rev share model, and we basically took a page out of network marketing, and Brent loved that industry as well in his previous life. One of the things that I recognized early on, because I was a sales guy, I've been a sales guy since I was like 18 years old when I did started selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door. So what I recognized is and I'll say the network marketing community specifically, is that even though they might be selling the same products and services as somebody else, or something you could go buy at the grocery store, or something you could buy at the health food store or whatever, the people that were selling those products were super positive, super pumped, and super inspiring to be around. And so the difference was the aligned compensation model. And so for me, I always loved it. And so that's why I was involved. I forget how many companies, probably 6 different network marketing companies over the years. And every time I was involved in them, I saw a few people's lives that literally changed, where they went from poverty to doing well financially. And it's not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to hit those, and I didn't hit it. But just being around that community was super inspiring and made me a better person. And so I loved the concept. It was one of the things that attracted me again to Keller Williams, is because I think it's why Keller Williams developed the culture, is because it wasn't 100% about the broker owner. It was about, sharing in the profits. Just turned out that the bricks and mortar costs are too significant to overcome to create a lot of profit share. But in EXP, we were able to share more through rev share and be able to enhance it through equity, that it created, that enthusiasm that I'd seen in so many different companies. The one thing, every vendor partner that we have in EXP, they all basically say the same thing. There's no other company like EXP. When agents at EXP get involved with our product, they tell everybody else at EXP, and they're happy about it and they're excited about it, because the value props that we bring to agents are also the value props that those agents get to take to other agents. And so they talk about them from the perspective of, this is going to help you in your business. This is not just coming from sort of a corporate perspective. It's actually coming from each individual recognizing and understanding what these mean, and then they just collaborate and share and help everybody adopt. Now, not everybody does. I mean, there's a certain percentage of agents, even at EXP, that um, are me first agents. But for those who are actually service oriented to their agent community, it's crazy the amount of collaboration and community that gets created with all this stuff.
It is. And I see a lot of me first when they first come in, because they haven't been exposed to people that are willing to give them the shirt off their back to help them succeed. They haven't been used to that in this industry. And now I see them moving into community first. And that's a great journey to watch somebody grow, including myself. I came in this, what's this in for me? How do I manipulate, navigate? And what are we going to do here? And then now I realize that the more people I help, the more wins and more successes I'm going to have. And it's a beautiful model. You're moved up, you're a billionaire. I know you're a very humble guy, but through the EXP stock and the success that EXP has, you've increased some of your circles you're hanging around with. Grant Cardone, Glenn Stearns. I know he's been around, Tony Robbins, and some of these others. When you're in these circles now, and that must be very, very cool to be rubbing arms and talking with those bright minds. But these big minds, what are they looking at now? What are they thinking about? What's the future look like in these circles, if you will, if you could give us a little insight?
Yeah, it's interesting. They all want to have an impact in a large number of people's lives. I mean, they live bigger than they're bigger than life personas to a large extent. And in the case of Glenn Stearns, again, legitimately a billionaire, but he's not about it's not about the money. It's about the relationships that he's able to create and be involved in. So he's more involved with things like Horatio Alger and helping disadvantaged kids with scholarships and that type of thing. They are big thinkers, but it is about how to galvanize large communities. So Grant, of course, is probably the most prolific at sort of galvanizing through social and other things large communities and helping people, and then monetizing that. With Naveen Jain, he's unique. He's started, multiple companies. I think this is a sixth company that, in theory could go to over $1 billion valuation. He's again, a multi-legit. By the way, I used to be, when the stock was up higher, I was a billionaire. Now I'm not, but obviously I'm not really doing it for that piece, but it is what's the commonality between all of us is that it's more about how do we help as many people as possible in whatever product or service we're bringing to market, and what is the infrastructure and community need to be to support that mission. And that's really the big thing. Zig Ziglar, my favorite quote of his of all time is, "You can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want." And so that for me has always been a mantra. And then the other piece is you have to grow as a person to be able to grow an organization, because this is no longer about out there in the hustle of selling a product. It's now a mission of evangelizing an ideal, and those are two totally different ways of operating. But you sort of start, I would say, back in 2002, I needed to put food on the table and a roof over our head. That was the job. And within a couple 3 years, that was no longer the thing. And I struggled for a bit, because that was my programming was defined by the struggle. And when I no longer had to struggle to put food on the table and a roof over my head, then I go, oh, I need to go on vacation, which then created the ripple effect was that eventually I had to put food on the table and a roof over the head. And so I ended up in this income band that most of
Mm,
us find ourselves in. And you know, I could only play so much, PlayStation 2 at the time, and when things were going well. And so I didn't really have a bigger mission. Um, but eventually, when you go through a few of these, you finally go, man, there's a bigger game to play, and there's more lives that you can impact, and
mm,
how do you do it? And that eventually becomes the thing. And then once you get on that path, it becomes almost on you're almost playing like the unlimited game, which I think is the infinite game, as
yeah,
Simon Sinek talks about. But
mhm,
and the other Simon Sinek phrase is to start with why. You need to examine what it is. What's your mission as an individual. And I think these are things that all of these big personas, they all had to redefine what their whys were, because they all struggled at one point. But when you're no longer struggling,
mm.
you could go and vacation for the rest of your life, and which many people do, and that's great. But there's others that say, I want to stay in the game, because this is where I find identity and a sense of purpose. And so that's what I see with these guys.
So I love that. I think that's such a great place to kind of wrap up today. 30 minutes went like that. I could talk to you for an hour and a half, Glenn. I really appreciate you. So leave us with one parting thought. What do you think the greatest opportunities are for agents in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, well, the next 12 to 24 months, if you look at it from a macro perspective, the market's definitely going to be softer than it has been for the last number of years. So it's about picking up market share and
Mm,
putting in the seeds, the foundation for the next spring and summer in the industry. But right now, every industry goes through the cycle of spring, summer, fall, winter. We're in winter. I mean, so let's not kid ourselves. We're in the winter of real estate at the moment. But a lot of times this is where you're prepping, getting ready to plant the seeds that will ultimately sprout in spring, and then in summer. And so it's about picking up market share, and making sure that your community knows that you're there to support them. You're still going to do deals. You're still going to get
mhm.
transactions done. If you want to do the same number of transactions, you're going to have to be creative, and you're going to have to
Or
actually,
twice as much.
yeah, work twice as much, or really get good at articulating your unique value proposition to the marketplace. If you don't, if your marketplace doesn't know what you stand for, there's no reason why they have to do business with you.
Mhm.
So figure out, what is your unique value prop. So when people think of real estate, they think of you partially because of your value prop. So I think next 12 to 24 months, dial in your value prop, make sure
Mhm.
your clients know, stay in touch with them and do the work, and you'll do deals, but you'll put yourself in position to do a lot more if that's what you want to do, after we come through this market shift.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here today, Glenn. We really appreciate you. I am blessed to be on the ship with you. Are we going to have an EXP on the moon? Is that going to happen in the next couple decades?
Well, who knows? Naveen Jain, who of course now I'm in partnership with, and some stuff. He actually has, I think he has mining rights on the moon. So I know a guy.
Wow, I know a guy. So we've got a place for a new geographical EXP location.
There you go.
Hey, buddy, I appreciate you. Thank you very much, Glenn. Thanks for being here. It's Tuesday Titans, and you are a titan in the industry. We appreciate you. Thanks for your contribution, and have a great day, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. Chat soon.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.